Hi, my name is Liezl and welcome to this three-part series called Soft, A Journey Home. So I've created these three classes as a nuanced way of helping yourself to manage your energy, maybe at the end of the day, especially if it's been a long and a challenging one. There are many ways that we can feel overwhelmed, tired, and all of them need something slightly different. So depending on where you start, that kind of determines the path that you're going to take. So these three sessions are a little bit more specific, a little bit more nuanced. The first one is called Shed. So Shed is really good for if you're kind of feeling still anxious and there's a lot of energy in your system and you just can't seem to find yourself coming to rest. So Shed is there to help you shift this energy and shake it off. The second session is called Mend. So Mend is really good for when you're feeling scattered. If you feel like you are still in 5 to 5 million places at the end of the day and you'd really just like to feel complete and together, Mend is a really good session to bring the energy slowly back. And then the last one is called Nest. And Nest is when you simply need stillness, when you simply need time to be without thinking or moving or doing anything in particular. So use these sessions as you need them. And then lastly, for these sessions you will need a few props, but I've made it super easy so that even if you don't have like yoga props at home, you can use something else. So I'll just quickly show you. I've got a nice big bolster, but any like pillow will do, or maybe like 2 or 3 pillows. It's good to have maybe 2 around. I've got some yoga blocks, but if you don't have blocks, a nice thick dictionary will also do, or maybe a couple of books perhaps wrapped in something. And then a nice alternative to also have around is face towels. So these are smaller towels, as you can see, just folded in a quarter and then rolled up, which are really nice for the restorative sessions. I've got a yoga strap. You can use any belt or scarf. And then I have here what are called eye pillows. So they are filled with rice and they've got a little bit of weight. And that weighty aspect, especially across the eyes or the hands sometimes, can really help to calm the nervous system down. But if you don't have these at home, the next best thing you can use is maybe a bag of rice. This is a bag of split peas. So whatever you have around, and a good weight is from 1/2 kilo to maybe 2 kilograms max. And then something to really invest in is a tennis ball. A tennis ball is a great addition to a yoga practice for doing some fascia release. So these are the things that we'll be using in the series. It is not exclusively a yin practice. It's a bit of a blend of hatha and yin and restorative, and then putting it all together so that you can really find yourself, come back to yourself and be at home. All right, okay, let's get started. And I'll see you now. Hi, and welcome to the third session in the series called Nest. So as I've said before, Nest is a great session for if you just really need some stillness, both in body, in mind, and in breath. In this class, I'll speak less than I usually do during classes, so not guiding the inner space so much, so that you just have time for yourself. I'll be using a timer. You might hear the gong going off or the chime, or kind of letting us know there's a few more breaths in the pose before we transition. And then we'll use a variety of props today, so before you get started, just get these ready. I have a blanket that I have folded until I kind of have a long thin strip, and that's going towards the top of the mat. That's going to give us some support on the forehead. And then we'll also need at least 1 block or book, 1 tennis ball, 1 bolster, 1 pillow, and 2 small rolled up towels. The eye pillows or the bean bags or the rice bags are optional towards the end of class. So see what you can get together, and then we'll slowly get started. So the first posture we'll explore today, we'll be using the two rolled up towels. You can find yourself in the middle of your mat, knees a little bit wider, so taking a little bit of space, and then taking both the towels into the front hip creases. We want the blanket towards the top of the mat so that we can rest our forehead and our hands on it. And if you find that rolled up towels are quite thick and you're not really getting into the pose, there's always the option to roll them out slightly and just have the rolls that are in the hip creases a tiny little bit smaller. So we'll hold these poses for a few minutes each, keeping it really nice and slow. So get the rolls deeply tucked into your hip creases, and then as you come forward, feel your hip bones resting onto the towels, gently pressing your thigh bones down. And then head simply down towards the blanket, coming to the front of the mat. You can rest your arms onto the blanket. And then slowly come into this calming child's pose. Perhaps letting the hands rest on top of each other. We'll take a moment to get settled and then move into stillness. Make sure your head feels supported enough so that as the spine lengthens, there isn't too much of a strong stretch. You want to feel a gentle pressure in the abdomen across the front of the thighs. And then a nice deep release in the lower back as you allow your weight to melt into the ground. In all of these postures, let your breath guide you. So gently sending awareness to the inhalation and exhalation. And simply allowing yourself to feel how the breath moves through the body. Allow all of the tired and the fatigue in your muscles, your bones, your mind. Allow all of it to come to rest. And as we keep resting into the pose, allow the body to just take whatever shape feels natural, feels accessible, and most importantly, that feels comfortable.
Allow yourself to take 3 more breaths here. So just bringing gentle awareness back to the breath, awareness of getting ready to come out of the pose. And then on your next inhalation, gently lift your head. Push gently into your hands. And then walking the hands back up towards the thighs. Release the towel rolls, just put them aside. And then making your way into table for a moment, releasing the hip creases by stretching one leg towards the back, followed by the other. And then from here, find yourself coming to sitting and grabbing your bolster and your pillow so that we get ready for the next pose. So the bolster or the pillow, you're going to need 2 of them. Goes as long as you can to support the body in front. And then moving your pillow to the side where your legs are. Allow your hip and your thigh to come up close to the bottom of your pillow or your bolster. Take the smaller pillow, place it in between your knees. And then turn your chest back towards the pillow, slowly coming down first to your elbows, resting your head. You can rest your hands onto the blanket. You're also welcome to pull the blanket in underneath the pillow, which lifts a little bit higher, a little bit more gentle on the spine. So decide which you prefer. And then we'll do 3 minutes here on each side. So coming to rest, you can either gaze in the same direction as your legs or opposite direction. That feels like maybe quite a deep twist. So just find yourself coming to rest. Hands supported, head supported. And then again, as soon as you can, closing the eyes. Letting your body melt into the support of the ground, the pillows. Maybe once just scanning the body, checking for any unconsciously held tension. And then letting the fingers, the toes, the legs, all of it just grow nice and heavy. Take 3 more deep breaths on this side. And then very gently slide your hands closer, pushing into the hands to lift yourself. From here we turn our back to the bolster, and from there swing your legs over to the opposite side. Again, bring your hip and your thigh in line with the bottom of your bolster or pillow. And then as you exhale, slowly lower your chest back down once more, coming onto the elbows. And then lowering yourself all the way down. Allow your head to point in the same direction as your legs. Hands resting across the blanket. And then coming back to the breath, find stillness. Take one moment to scan the whole of the body and soften all of your muscles. So fingers, toes, wrists, ankles, knee, back, head, neck. Take 3 deep breaths here before we come out of the pose. And then on your next inhalation, slide your hands closer. Gently push your chest up. And then we'll simply place the pillow and the bolster once again to the side of our mat, just out of the way. And getting ready for the next 2 poses, I invite you to grab your block and your tennis ball and make your way onto your belly. So let's start on the right hand side with the right leg. Place your props to the right. And then coming down onto your belly, pull the blanket forward so that when you rest your forehead onto the blanket, it just lifts the face enough so that there's space for your nose, that you don't feel squashed. Good. From here, come onto the elbows to begin with, and then pull your right knee forward. You can either have right knee as is, option also to place the block underneath the knee. You'll find that creates a little bit of a deeper opening. So just decide what feels appropriate today. We'll once again come into resting by placing the hands onto the blanket, forehead onto the blanket, and then letting the whole body go heavy. Make sure that you really have your left hip bone and the left side of your belly resting on the floor. Make any adjustments you need to get comfortable. Reconnect with your breath. Allow yourself to notice the sounds of the world around you. There's no need to try and hide yourself, but feel yourself very safely cocooned here in this nest of your practice. Knowing you're in a safe space, in a refuge, and that everything can keep moving around you and outside, but you can stay still and safe right here in this moment with your breath. Take 3 more breaths in this side of the pose before we move on. And really breathe into the upper back with the shoulders soft. On the next inhalation, gently lift your head. Pull your elbows a little bit closer, and then remove the block underneath the knee if you had it there. And just to come into the next pose, we'll straighten the leg out and roll the hips up. So now the block comes a little bit closer in line with the front part of your pelvis. So you kind of want to be able to lie down over it. You'll need to pull it in so that the inside edge of the block is almost in line with your belly button. It might feel better to take the block this way around instead of like this. So just let the short side be on the inside of the pelvis. And then take your tennis ball, place your ball on the inside of your hip bone. Find your hip bone, place the tennis ball on the block inside, and then again bring your knee up. So the knee is now just underneath the block. You have the ball pressing into your belly, into the psoas, and then see if you can pull your chest back towards the front. We're going to stay in this pose for 3 minutes as well. Once again, forehead comes down to the mat. And as we go, you can slowly but surely allow the weight to drop into the ball. This pose can feel very intense to begin with. See if you can focus on your breathing to help you find the release. With every inhalation, notice how the breath moves down towards the area where the ball is pressing into the body. If it feels very tender, you can always remove the block and just do the same with the ball resting on the ground. Again, find the space where your hands, elbows, and shoulders are completely soft. Resting your forehead on the blanket. And then just taking the deepest, fullest belly breaths you can. And coming back to stillness. Take 3 more breaths here. Then as you inhale, gently lift your head. Push into your hands, remove the ball, remove the block. And then straighten the leg down. For a moment, we'll just take Sphinx pose. Very, very gently. Resting on the elbows. Take 2-3 breaths. And notice if you can feel a difference between the front of the right hand side compared to the left. And then from here we'll switch over to the left leg. So gently roll onto your right hand side, pull your left knee forward and up, and then take your block, if you like, place your block under your left knee on the inside. Turn your chest back towards the front. As you exhale, lower your forehead back down onto the blanket, hands resting beside your head. And then we'll take 3 minutes in this variation to get started, to just open the body a little bit more before we go into that deeper psoas release. At this point, the pathways for releasing the hands, the shoulders, the back should be well grooved, easy to sink into. So see how quickly you can allow yourself to soften there. And then bring your awareness to your leg, your hip, your inner thigh. And see how much you're able to release tension in the body consciously by thinking about it, allowing your leg to be heavy. And then once you've found that sensation of heaviness, allow yourself to surrender and melt completely into it. Be with the breath. Take 3 more breaths here before we move back into the deeper release. So 2 more unhurried breaths, allowing yourself to rise to the surface internally without moving in the body. And then on the next inhalation, lift your head. Gently push onto your elbows. And then we'll straighten the leg once more, bringing the block into the inside of the pelvis. So you want to bring the side of the block almost to the belly button, but having it below the belly so it's more on the inside of the hip. Bring your tennis ball back into the inside of the hip bone. Slide your knee back in until you feel the ball pressing into that inner pelvic space. Turn yourself forwards, take a nice deep breath, and then slowly lower your ribs down, forehead to the mat. Coming into this again, it's going to feel quite strong. And we're going to stay for 3 minutes, allowing ourselves to really release into it. So resting lightly to start with. Slow, deep, full breathing. Letting your breath gently explore the edges of this sensation as you come into it. Then very gradually letting the weight sink more and more into the ball, into the block. Let your breath become fuller. We'll take 3 more deep breaths here. Slow, unhurried breath, allowing your awareness to gently rise without moving. And then on the next inhalation, lift the head, gently roll towards the side, remove your block and your ball. Let the front of the pelvis come back down towards the mat, taking Sphinx pose. And just letting the front of the hip bones really be heavy on the ground. And I'll take 2 more breaths here. And then getting ready for our next pose, which is a prone shavasana. So you'll first need to gently push yourself up, and then we'll set up some props to come into this. So grab your bolster or your pillow, the firmest one you have, and place it in the center of your mat. So the front of our hips are going to go on this, the forehead and the hands here once more. And then either grab your 2 towel rolls or your blocks. The 2 towel rolls are probably going to be more comfortable. Place them at the bottom of your mat, roughly where the front of your ankles will go. Okay, so coming into this, we're going to stay about 3 minutes. So allow the front of the ankles to come to rest on the towel rolls to support the legs. Then draw the hips forward across the bolster. And this is where you just have to check that maybe the bolster is a bit high. If it's more on your belly, move it lower towards the legs and the hip bones. Good. Chest comes to the ground, hands come forward, forehead resting on to the blanket. Maybe you need to pull it out a little bit. And then elbows stay gently bent, hands gently resting, forehead on the mat. And allow yourself to breathe into the lower back. That's the area that we're trying to soften. So feel the weight of your ribs drop on the floor. Feel the weight of your hips drop on the bolster, and the weight of your feet and your legs dropping in to the rolled up towels. You're welcome to turn your head to the right here and holding it there for a while. Just puts a gentle stretching action through the neck. I'll tell you when it's time to switch the other way around. And then coming back to your breath. Good. On your next breath in, gently switch your head in the opposite direction. And then softening back into this safe nest of your practice as quickly as you can. We'll take 3 more deep, slow breaths here. No need to hurry, no need to rush. And then on the next inhalation, the hands come closer to the chest, lifting your head, pushing yourself back up. And then from here, we'll get ready for our final pose, which is a supported fish pose with legs in cobbler. So pillow or bolster goes behind your back. And then to support the knees, grabbing your blocks, placing them beside you. We're going to also use these weighted pillows or bean bags or rice bags. So if you have 3 of them, I would recommend maybe 1 in each hand. If you only have 1 or 2, we're going to cover the eyes and maybe placing 1 across the chest. So to come into the pose, soles of the feet come together. Knees are supported by the blocks here. We'll hold this pose for about 5 minutes. So getting yourself really comfortable to stay. Keeping the pillow in towards the lower back. Supporting the spine here as you allow yourself to come all the way down and adjusting the blocks if needed. 1 bag goes across the eyes at least. 2nd bag can perhaps drape across the center of your breastbone. Take a moment to really feel the weight of both of these objects. And then letting the back of your head rest into the pillow beneath you. Letting your spine come to rest. Letting your knees get heavy. Allowing your lower jaw to melt away from the upper jaw. So letting there be space between your teeth. Letting your tongue drop down into the hollow of your mouth. Letting the palms of the hands soften. And maybe for about 5 rounds, encouraging your inhalation to move all the way down to your belly button and your hip bones. Allow yourself to relish in the fullness of your breath, so pausing for maybe the count of 1 or 2 before you slowly exhale. After you've done 5 rounds of more focused, more deliberate breath, let the breath just find its own natural rhythm. Allow your body to melt down. Allow yourself to feel heavy. Allow the noises of the world to pass you by. Feeling yourself safely grounded and protected in this nest of your practice. So any sounds outside, let them all just float through your awareness. We'll take 3 more breaths here. Slow, deep, full breaths. And then simply stretch your legs out, straightening them. You're welcome to stay resting on the bolster. You're welcome to remove it from your back. From here, you're welcome to take a shavasana, stretching yourself out, lengthening your body out on the ground until you feel supported and at rest. Take as long as you need, take as much time as required for you to feel fully rested and allowing your energy to just naturally rise back up, ready to move on to the last part of your day. Thank you so much for joining me for practice. Namaste.